Recording, ready to go. It's true.
Great.
Take it.
Thanks, Deb.
Uh-huh.
All right. Hello, everyone. It's going to be a short class, but it's really an important class. And, it's what you should know about um, standard of practice of the Code of Ethics. There's 17 Code of Ethics. And there was recently a change to the article number 10, which is discrimination against classes, protected classes. And the change was to what they call standard of practices. So back in November of last year, because of events going on in our country, NAR made a change to the standard of practice, and it's standard of practice 10.5. And I'm going to share my screen so that we can see what we're all talking about. All right, there you go. So key professional standard changes for 2020 to 2021. So standard of practice 10.5 is that realtors must not use harassing speech, hate speech, epithets, or slurs based on race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. These are federally protected classes that we cannot discriminate against. And realtors must not use harassing speech, hate speech, epithets, or slurs. Now, when this was first proposed, everybody was saying, well, how can, you can't control what I say. There's freedom of speech in the United States. And yes, there is. But as a realtor, when you join your local association, you're also joining CAR, which is California Association of Realtors, and you're joining NAR, the National Association of Realtors. Now, those are trade organizations. You are now a member of a trade organization, and the leaders in those organizations can put, how do I want to say it, put limitations on what you can do as a member of that association. And if you violate those guidelines or whatever you want to call them, then you're up for discipline. So that's how they can control this. So this is what the standard of practice says. 10.5 is you must not use harassing speech, hate speech, epithets, or slurs based on race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familiar status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Now, there's a two-step analysis as to whether somebody who is accused of doing this has actually done it. The first step is the speech harassing speech, hate speech, an epithet, or slur? The second is, if so, is the speech based on those protected classes? So I want you to be aware that this is not retroactive. This standard of practice went into effect on November 13th, 2020. So everything prior to that was fair game, I guess you would say. And then after November 13th, 2020 is when you can be disciplined for a violation of this standard of practice. So NAR's Code of Conduct and Anti-Harassing Policy, here's examples of harassment include, but are not limited to, as we said, epithets, slurs, or negative stereotyping, threatening, intimidating, or hostile acts, um, uh, denigrating jokes, and the display of or circulation of written or graphic material that denigrates or shows hostility towards an individual or group based on those protective classes, which I mentioned earlier. So this is an example of what they're talking about. Now here's the dictionary term for hate speech: speech that is intended to insult, offend, or intimidate a person because of some trait, as race, religion, sexual orientation, any of those protected classes. So that's the definition, or Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition of hate speech. The definition of an epithet, a characterizing a characterizing work or phrase accompanying or occurring in place of the name of a person or thing, a disparaging or abusive word or phrase. I don't have to say what these things are. You all know what I'm talking about. So, and a slur is defined as insulting or disparaging remark or innuendo, aspersion, a shaming or degrading effect, a stain, or a stigma. So that's what the definitions of those. So hand in hand with the change in the code of ethic, there's a policy statement that accompanies these codes of ethics. So this is what was changed, because we always had in the code of ethics Article 10, which is that you couldn't discriminate, and this is what the policy was. You'll see the lined items that are out, but it basically had to do with during a transaction. They've changed this policy that a realtor shall be subject to disciplinary action under the code of ethics for all of their activities. Whether it has to do with a transaction or not. So that's an important note. The guidelines, it adds emphasis for violations of public trust. And what is public trust? Let's just move on to what public trust is. Public trust, as used in this context, refers to a demonstrated misappropriation of client or customers' funds or property, and discrimination against the protected classes under the Code of Ethics, or fraud. So it's basically saying you are violating public trust due to the protected class. Steering is a way of public trust, steering certain clients to a specific neighborhood, or charging them more for your services, or stuff like that. That is public trust. Whenever public trust is involved, it's at really a heightened level, because we're responsible for people are making the biggest purchase of their life, and we have their personal information. Sometimes we're handling their money in certain so we have to be very, very careful when we're dealing with a client and their funds and whatnot. So Enforcement of the Code of Ethics also requires member boards to share with the state real estate licensing authority final ethics decisions holding realtors in violation of the Code of Ethics in instances involving real estate related activities and transactions where there was a reason to believe the public trust may have been violated. What does that mean? Basically, that means that that if you were found in violation of public trust, mishandling, somebody's funds and whatnot, that is automatically elevated to a report to the DRE. That's just the way it is. I've had 2 cases at grievance where things were so egregious that we moved it on to the DRE because people were being taken advantage of, and their money was grossly mishandled. So it's out there. So here's a link to for more information about the Code of Ethics. I will share these slides. I think they can be posted on Facebook. I think Kim told me that if I get them to her, which I will do so. And that really is basically it. And I'm just trying to wait. I want to refresh.
Rich, if I can interrupt, we do have one question. Mona is Mona's asking, what is a common way that realtors have mishandled the client's funds?
Well, we've had people, agents go into a household and say, I will be, besides selling your house for you, I will be, I'll act as your lender, take their funds, and then they either disappear or they nothing ever happens. There was one instance in grievance where someone came in. There was a default on the property. He promised to be able to sell the house and get them out of being sold, the auction, and the people lost the house. They lost the money that they paid this agent, and they lost the house. So so that's an example. Do we have any more questions? Because that's kind of it. That was 15 minutes. That's the class. That is the fastest class I've ever had.
I think that's awesome. Let me just check on questions. I have.
But it's really important to know about this.
Diane Siddell says hello. Happy Wednesday, old chum.
Hello. Happy Wednesday.
Let's see, who else? Oh, here, Mona has another question. Is there a way someone can mishandle a client's funds without realizing it? If so, what is an example or a situation that you have seen?
I don't see how somebody can mishandle money without realizing it. Everybody, you shouldn't be touching anybody's money. That's the thing. We don't even want checks for deposits anymore, because the minute you touch a check, that has to be logged. You have to immediately go to the office, log it in the trust. That don't even touch a check. Everything should be done through escrow. So, yeah, that's that. Okay.
Out there, any other questions? Not seeing anybody.
No. All right. No.
Nope, nobody's put anything in there just now. We have a nice little audience with us, but
all right.
So that's always good if they don't have
that is
when it comes to
that is.
We definitely like to see that, but thanks, Rich. We appreciate you always tuning in, taking time out of your day to take care of us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good seeing you. All right. Take care.
Take care. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.